Just a quick note about the episode you're about to listen to. We recorded this on the afternoon of Saturday, July 13th, before recent events at the Trump rally in Pennsylvania. So you won't be hearing us discuss those events in this episode. We will be back next week with a new episode where we'll take a look at recent events and the Republican National Convention. Unless, of course, some other historic event happens between now and then. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Liberal Banter with Liz and Olu. We're back after taking a couple of weeks off. We hope everyone had a good July 4th and enjoyed a break. We decided to take a little bit of time off, but we're back now and we're glad to be here with you, and thank you for listening. Today we are discussing one topic we were supposed to discuss and dive into Project 2025. And you'll probably still hear us refer to it and talk about pieces of it during this episode. But we decided that we should instead talk about the, let's say, fallout from Biden's campaign and the discussion around his candidacy moving forward as the Democratic nominee. I will say that both of us don't agree on anything, so I'm sure this episode is going to be really good if you're a longtime listener here. But we'll let Olu start with her thoughts initially on all the fuss that's surrounding Biden's candidacy.
Yes, thank you for acknowledging that. So I think for the first time, probably since we've been doing this, we are on completely opposite sides of the opinion here about whether Biden should stay or go. But I think at the end of the day, we both want Trump out. We just disagree on which way is most likely to come out. So at least we agree on on the end. We just don't agree on the means. So the fact that we're still talking about this, 2 weeks later, is bonkers to me. The Republican convention is supposed to start on Monday. Trump still hasn't chosen his VP from his clown car of VP options. We're not talking about that. We're spending all of our time talking about this situation that has no resolution and no clear way of changing. There is no mechanism to remove Biden as the nominee unless he willingly bows out. So I don't understand why we are perseverating on a situation that cannot be changed.
Well, first of all, what did you say? Perseverating? Is that what you said?
Yes.
What does that mean? I'm sorry. I don't know what that means.
It means obsessing and repeating the same thing over and over again.
Okay, English. First of all, so here's one of the points of disagreement, right? You say there's nothing we can do. I say I'm not sure. / there might be something we can do before the convention. And I think there are people who agree with me. I understand that Biden has to be the one who takes this step, but I think if enough people put pressure on him, he will. So I don't think it's all is lost and there's nothing that can change. I do think things can change if he admits this is a problem, which it doesn't sound like he will. I saw that George Stephanopoulos interview where he said, if he loses, it's fine because he tried his best. And that aggravated me so much because that's not what's at stake. This election should not be some sort of personal challenge for Biden. It's about America, which is a big word, but that's what it's about. We've been told and we've been telling people how much is at stake in this election with Project 2025 upcoming. And to hear him say, it's like a personal thing. If he loses, he'll know he did his best. No, sir, if you lose, we all suffer. It's not just you who's going to feel a little bit disappointed that you lost. And I don't know if he gets that. which I think is why he hasn't seriously considered dropping out, or maybe he has and hasn't told us. But I do think if people put enough pressure on him, he could drop out. And I think that's what you're seeing happen is people trying to test that.
Okay, so I agree with you that that was a bad answer. That was an ego-driven answer. And then saying that, if God Almighty came down and told him, like, that was not a great answer
Frustrating.
in my
Frustrating.
opinion. But maybe I'm already coming from a level of cynicism. Politicians are usually not, normal people on the narcissism and egotism scale, okay? So for me, I'm thinking to myself, how likely is it for Biden himself to voluntarily let go of power? It's very unlikely. And then I take the next step. And we've been, making this comparison in the group chat, right? How likely is it that any other politician is going to sacrifice themselves as the Judas or the Brutus who, knifes the leader and makes him drop out? Very unlikely, because everybody's also making a calculation that they don't want to be seen as the person who pushed Biden out, because that is also part of their legacy, right? That's going to be part of the footnote in their political and historical legacy, that this set of people pushed Biden out. And if it doesn't work out, then it becomes a negative asterisk in their political history, in their legacy. So I just do not think that there is. I think the problem is that we're hinting and we are, suggesting, which still leaves the power to decide in Biden's hands. And unless people are actually going to go ahead and tell him, we're going to withdraw our delegates from you in the convention, and they put their government names behind it and not anonymous bullshit leaks. And it's not George Clooney. George Clooney doesn't have the power to push Biden out. We know the people who have the power to push Biden out. They're the big names, and they have to come out and say it with their chest and put their government names behind it. And I just understand that that's not going to happen. And
Well,
since it is going to happen, I don't think that Biden is going to leave.
Well, I think I agree with you here. If Obama came out and said he didn't publicly, because we read articles this week about how it's an open secret that he's skeptical about Biden's chances. I believe this was in Politico, writing about Obama's thoughts on Biden's candidacy. So, former president may be on our side that he needs to leave, Olu. But I do agree that
I don't agree that you can
I said maybe. I said maybe. Okay.
The only actually attributable quote to Obama directly came a day after the debate, and he said, "Bad debates happen. I still support Joe Biden." Anybody who is leaking anonymously, I just don't know how much stock we can put in that. People can say whatever they want, but that's not Obama's responsibility. And I don't understand why he's being, singled out. He's a former president. He's no longer in power. Chuck Schumer could do this. Jim Clyburn could do this. Nancy Pelosi could do this. It doesn't have to be one person.
Well, okay, but to this greater point about people who are, quote, important in the Democratic Party, obviously Obama is one of those people, even if he's no longer in office. He is important to the Democratic Party. He is a senior leader or whatever. And he did say after the debate, or tweet, sorry, he didn't say, he tweeted, bad debates happen, like what I did in 2012, whatever. Fine. He hasn't said anything since then. And the noise has gotten even louder since then. He hasn't come out and said anything. So I said maybe he's on the side of people who don't know or don't think Biden should do this. I
I
don't know for a fact either.
Relation.
I don't know for a fact either.
I think
And
the
I
only
don't think
that we have on record is actually supportive of Biden. If people like George Clooney want to hint that Obama is on their side, I just think that that is underhanded and cowardly. If you think that Biden should leave, you should say so and move on. You don't then get to leak that, oh, I talked to Obama about it and he didn't stop me. Obama is not your daddy. Like,
okay,
you
but
are winner George Clooney, say what you want to say and move along.
okay, and George Clooney did say what he wanted to say and move along.
No, he did.
We're talking about the he
Yeah,
wrote the whole op-ed about how he thinks.
this, even though that's not what happened. Like
Sorry,
Obama, oh,
sorry, what did you just say? Because he wrote the whole op-ed about in the New
he
York
wrote
Times about how Biden
exactly
should drop. That's his thoughts. That's his opinion. He shared it. You know, he wrote
right,
what he wanted to write.
right, and then he clearly leaked because the leak is not coming from Obama. The leak is coming from George Clooney. He clearly leaked that. Oh, then I spoke to Obama about it because there are only two people in a conversation. One is Obama and one is George Clooney. And then if George Clooney feels that he needs to provide cover for himself for his opinion, then maybe he shouldn't have said it at all.
He didn't say directly that Obama wanted Biden out. George Clooney's opinion piece was that senators and congresspeople he has spoken to think Biden should drop out. I didn't think he actually mentioned the former president. The story about Obama and Pelosi privately expressing concern, those stories are in like CNN and they're coming from quote unquote sources and operatives within the Democratic Party. That wasn't necessarily what George Clooney said. But I don't want to get wrapped up in what a celebrity thinks because I mean personally I agree with George Clooney. So cool, but I want to talk about these people who are in the Democratic Party, like officials or leaders in the Democratic Party, people like Obama, people like Pelosi. I agree with you. If they think he should drop out, they should say so publicly. They should stop leaking things through sources and operatives. I highly doubt Obama is letting information that he doesn't want to let get out through his party, his team, but whatever, we'll give him the benefit of doubt. I don't think it's brave at all to quietly hint at or secretly say Biden should drop out. I agree. If they feel that way, they should tell us publicly. That would be added pressure to get what I want, which is for a new candidate in the time that we have. I
Right.
actually want that to happen if that's the case. If it's not the case, that's disappointing because once again, I don't understand how people can see things like the debate performance, things like some of his public appearances, even before the debate performance, and think that this is a person that should do this job, first of all, that will win this election against this insane candidate, Trump, and then be able to do the job for 4 years. And I know we're going to vote for a team. I feel like I should also add here, you know, if he is the nominee in November, I guess I'll vote for him. I will vote for him because there's no other option for me. But I'm really hoping there's another option. I'm really hoping there's another choice we can make before we get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes without saying. I don't think there's anyone who is listening to us who think either of us wouldn't vote for Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee ends up being if Biden leaves. So, like, that one is already settled.
Hopefully,
But I
because we know we
agree.
saw some comments on YouTube the other day that were like, "Okay, guys."
I mean, that's fine. That's noise. I agree with your first point that, you know, they should do it. And I also want to add, you need to do this quickly, right? Quickly. We cannot slow drip this because if you're going to change the nominee, you cannot allow this changing the nominee story to be the story for weeks and weeks on end. Okay. It's now been 2 weeks. If these people are really concerned, I'm sorry, you gotta, brood us this shit. You just need to come out and do it quickly and do it brutally so that we can be out of this conversation that is making the entire Democratic Party look bad, right? If we're not going to
Yeah.
do it, then stop the conversation. If you're going to do it quickly, do it brutally, do it efficiently. That's all I'm asking.
Agreed. But there's not a lot of time left. Like you said, the Republican convention starts on Monday, which I'm sure it will be a great shit show. Have you heard one of the speakers is going to be Amber Rose?
I mean,
Exactly.
just just it's
Exactly.
gonna be Amber Rose, it's gonna be Tucker Carlson, just all the best people that Trump knows.
So maybe that will be the story, and it should honestly really be the story next week, and that will take heat off of this. And maybe that's what people are waiting for. I don't think Biden is the best Democrat we could have put forward. I really wish we had had a primary last year, early this year, whenever. But I think as a society, we were told it's all good. There's nothing to worry about. Everything is great. Look at the State of the Union. And we did, and we thought, this is great. This is cool. He's fine. I've changed my mind. And I know you and I disagree on whether or not things that have been happening the last couple of weeks are new information or not. It's new information to me. And I have been very annoyed the last couple of weeks at how I think the DNC and the Democrats are responding to this. Like you said, they're doing this slow drip of leaks, and one congressman from one district in, Texas comes forward and says something. Meanwhile, the party leaders are going out on TV telling us they support Biden, but then their aides are leaking information. It's a mess, and it doesn't need to be. They could come out and say they don't want him to run and find a new candidate. I don't think he would be able to argue with them if they did, but they're not. And I actually think he knows that, and that's why he's still in the running. It just feels like we need to take grandpa's keys away from him so he can stop driving and putting other people in danger. And everybody who's able to do it is just like, I don't know if I want to. And then the rest of us who are driving on the road are left to deal with the consequences. I don't think this is smart, but we'll see how it goes.
Exactly. The grown-ups need to take the keys away from grandpa, but then they can't decide how they want to do it. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi. Initially, she went on and she left the door open like he needs to make a decision, implying that there's a decision to be made and maybe he should drop out. And then once the backlash started, she was like, oh, it's fake news. That's not actually what I said. I'm still in support of him. So what they cannot even get their messaging right. And this is what I've been trying to tell you, Liz. I know that I love the Democratic Party, but I know them. They are not organized. This interpersonal drama, this back and forth that you've been seeing for the last 2 weeks, it is going to be 10 times worse if we have to have a mini primary. I can promise you that. This same interpersonal drama of, oh, who does Obama secretly support? Who does the leadership want? Who is feeling betrayed? Who is feeling undermined? That's going to be the story. This leaks, this anonymous aides who can't keep their mouth shut, this manipulation of the story, that's going to be the story for the next several weeks. And I just do not see how that helps us in the long run.
Well, I still think it should happen, though. I think it's what is it they say for exercise? No pain, no gain. I really think that's what it is. If we end up with the best candidate we can for, I don't know, the next debate in September, then that's perfect. I'm actually worried about this next debate, assuming it happens. What's going to happen then? Can you imagine if we leave Biden in, we get to that debate, it's another mess? Because this, I don't know what combination of drugs the Republicans think that Biden was being given, but does that exist to give it to him? What do we need to give Biden so that he does well at the next debate? I don't know. But I'm just saying, if that doesn't go well, we are really screwed at that point. And it won't matter what Trump does. And I know you don't like that because you want to point out all the things that Trump is doing that are insane. I agree with you. But I feel like if the next debate doesn't go well, if Biden is still the nominee, the Democrats are going to lose the election. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen.
Well, I think you're putting stock in the wrong thing. And anybody who thinks like what you're saying, I think they are putting stock in the wrong thing. No offense. This, I, you actually already know that I disagree about how bad this debate was in the first
Yep.
place.
Yep.
So
You said
I
that last time.
disagree completely about just how bad and who is actually demonstrating like cognitive impairment in that debate. But let us revisit why we vote for people again. Why do we vote for people? We vote for people for governance, right? And policies. This is like a job interview. If you interviewed somebody and one person was able to give you bluster, meaningless slogans, no actual sense of how things work, versus somebody else who was stuttering, who was trailing off, but could actually demonstrate that they understand how your industry works. Who are you giving the job to? I don't understand what the brouhaha is in the first
Well,
place.
Well, what you're saying, the reality is, as someone who has sat in on job interviews, usually the person who sounds confident gets the job. It's not right, it's not fair, and I guess pro tip for you if you're in the job market, don't sound nervous in your interview, but it actually does matter how you come across in an interview. Like you can't just get a job just because if you can't articulate your point clearly with a throughput of logic from start to finish, even if I kind of understand what you're saying, that's not going to be a positive interview for you. So like that's what you want to use a job interview analogy, that sure, we can use that, but like if you go into an interview and you're trying to illustrate how you made a team run more efficiently, but then halfway through your answer you trail off to talk about, I don't know, the price of insulin, which is what happened in the debate, you're not going to get that job. So like even then it's still not helpful. I totally get though the argument people are making about Trump. I agree with all of you. He lied. He didn't put policies forward. He did not illustrate an understanding of the job he is trying to get, even if he has already done the job before, which is wild. I agree with all of that. But this is America. How you come across matters. And one person did not come across in a good way. And we know how that went in June. So I'm worried about September again because it will be leading up to the election another 2 to 3 weeks of this conversation again if that debate doesn't go well.
Again, this is why we're never going to agree. I am voting for a brain trust. I am not necessarily voting for Biden, right? I am voting for a platform that I think actually has America's best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
We are a coalition. Presidents are like CEOs. The CEO of Boeing doesn't know how the hell, like, some company in Asia made the boats in the thing that went down, right? They delegate. There are people who are doing the job, and the president is like a supervisor. The president just rolls out whatever the Fed chair thinks is best for him, okay? And then the question we need to ask ourselves is that which person is actually going to appoint somebody who is going to make the right decisions about whatever you care about, the economy, climate change, healthcare, all of these things, right? Because that's the point. The point of a president is that who is he going to put in place to manage the vision for America? And this, I'm building this up to bring up like Project 2025, because like they're already telling us what their vision is going to be, right? And their vision is to decimate unions, right? Their vision is to cancel everything about history that does not make, white America look good, right? Their vision is to take the abortion rollbacks even forward, right? Their vision is to stop anything that we're trying to do in terms of climate change. So their vision is to actually just turn the federal service into Trump's like personal staff, not necessarily the staff, not necessarily public servants. Their vision is to turn the entire federal workforce into Trump's personal staff. So this is what we're talking about, right? And this vision is not just for Trump, right? Because this is the Republican platform, right? So they're gonna slot in whoever it is. So I don't understand. I expect Biden to get worse. That's how aging works. He is going to get worse. I don't have this like rosy-eyed view of Biden somehow going to do better in September or do better next year or be better like 2 years from now. I expect him to continue to decline because that is how aging works. I am not voting for him. I am voting for everyone else behind him. And I worry that those people are now being distracted from being behind him and maintaining a coherent party message because they're having to deal with this conversation.
Mm-hmm. And that's true. And, you know, if you look at the history of the Democratic Party and our nominees in the past, there's, you know, Democratic candidates get punished for things while the Republican, you know, competitor gets away with way worse things. Because I think, and you know, I'm not a political scientist. I really try not to paint a whole group of millions of Americans as the same thing. But in this case, it feels like, based on the voting results, Republicans have learned what you're saying, which is you vote for the platform, you vote for the plan, right? The plan last time was, yeah, Trump isn't the best candidate we could put, and I'm talking about 2016. Trump isn't the best candidate we could put forward, but he's going to fill that open Supreme Court justice seat with a judge that we want. And that's what happened. So Republicans, I think, have learned to vote for the plan, vote for the path forward. I don't think Democrats have learned that as a voting bloc, or liberal leading voters or independent voters who vote Democrat. I don't know what you want to call them. I don't think they've learned the same lesson. I don't think we vote the same way, partly because we're not a cult. But this is what happens when you're not a cult. You don't blindly follow the leader. And we saw that with like Howard Dean. You know, he had that one weird moment where he screamed, and so he lost the nomination for the party. Like Hillary and her emails, they were a nothing burger in the end, but you know, that was an issue. John Kerry, you know, when the Republicans painted him as a flip-flopper, so Democrats were like, I can't vote for a flip-flopper, and we got a second Bush term. This is what happens to Democratic nominees. You have to basically be perfect to get through and win votes. It's not fair, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense, like now, but that's what's happening. And that is my concern with the November election. Democrats don't have the leeway to do what Joe Biden is doing right now and still win. And I think that should be concerning. And to your point about Project 2025, this plan is so bad that Trump is now distancing himself from it, which is hilarious because like I can't remember what percent. It's like half the people who wrote it were for his administration. They're actually on record saying it's their plan for when Trump wins. And Republicans know this and are going to vote for Trump regardless. Even if he didn't have 34 convictions already, they're still going to vote for the guy. Democrats, you know, we're worried about Biden and his performance. So now people are like, maybe I'll stay home in November. It's not the same audience. And that's part of why I think we should really try and replace him, because we know how our voters are. They need perfection. They demand perfection. It's not always fair, but that's what it is. And I even worry about down ballot votes, right? Like I have this whole idea that maybe if you don't like Biden for whatever reason, at least show up and vote for the Democratic senator or congressperson. I don't even know if that's going to happen now because people are just like fed up with this whole thing. It's like two old men running. None of the, you know, they want to talk about their golf handicap and like they don't care about America. So they're just going to stay home. Damn the consequences. Or vote third party, which is, we're not even going to talk about those people. So like, I'm just, I'm concerned. I'm concerned, and I think if there's a way to change the path now to avoid Project 2025 and other nefarious plans the Republicans have for America, we should do that. I mean, Project 2025, they're planning to ban porn. Like, I'm not like, I don't know, team porn or whatever, but that's how deep into your life they want to go with this plan. I just don't know why anyone would support that. And Trump knows that, and that's why he's trying to distance himself from it. But, we have to try our best to put forward a candidate that can help us avoid this fate. And I don't know if Joe Biden is the guy right now.
I mean, they want to dismantle the Department of Education. They want to dismantle the Department of Justice. They want to dismantle the woke bureaucrats in Pentagon. This is all real. The PDF is online. Just put in all these keywords into it. Put in Pentagon, put in Department of Justice, put in Department of Education. You would see them calling all of these people racist, who have to be changed, who have to be dismantled. The bureaucrats at the U.S. Foreign Aid Program, they call them woke with extremism about intersectionality and abortion. They literally want to take aim at every single service that the federal government currently provides and turn it on its head. And it is insane to me that we are talking about a debate when this stuff is just readily available online, being staffed by Trump's own former staffers, including people like Ben Carson, who until recently were being floated as VP options for Trump. So the idea that Trump gets to say that, I don't know these people, I wish them all the best, and the media is not currently hammering him every day, and instead we're getting hundreds of articles, hundreds of appearances, hundreds of leaks about Biden. At this point, I feel like we deserve what we get. Because
No, don't say that.
so this is the problem. Like, you can say whatever you want about, candidates need to present themselves better, and they need to be more photogenic, and they need to be more coherent or whatever. But at the end of the day, the job of a voter is to look at the policy, to look at governance. And I understand that the media is like not really doing a good job, because every time I click on television these days, I feel like, they just throw a mention that the Republican convention is happening on Monday, but every guest, every analysis is really about what drama is going on with the Democratic Party. And at this point, it's about entertaining people and not informing them about what the real policies are and what the real governance issues are. This is about government. This is not about debates. This is not about personal dramas. This is not about who liked who when they were president and vice president. Like, we're getting stories about, Obama and Biden, how they maybe did not like each other when they were working together. Who cares? This is not the Real Housewives. This is just drama.
Yeah, I have seen. I mean, there was that whole Parkinson's story in the New York. Or, well, it wasn't, but you know what I mean. The story about how a Parkinson's specialist doctor showed up at the White House a few times, which turned out to be nothing, at least for now. Has turned out to be nothing, and like the New York Times ran with that for like 2 days, and
Right.
that caused a very spicy press briefing.
NBC let a totally irresponsible doctor say that he could have diagnosed Joe Biden with Parkinson's from the mall. I mean, come on. That doctor is, first of all, like, not acting ethically. But NBC is also irresponsible. How do you what kind of doctor is that? How do you put people on who can just say whatever they want? You have no idea what his medical history is. You've never seen him before. Like, what do? You go to the mall and pick out who has Parkinson's? Is that how medicine works? This is insane. And they're putting this on the waves, and people are hearing this. And then when you say a doctor says this, it gives it some kind of legitimacy when it's just a completely unethical thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I agree the media has been a little much. I want to hear discussion about how Democrats can win in November and what they can do to be better, to deliver their message better. You know, I've said multiple things on this podcast. It is up to the Democratic Party and their candidates to deliver the message about what they want to do. The media is not going to do it for them. You have to run and campaign off of your achievements so far and the plan for the future. I don't know why it seems like that's not happening. I still think there are voters that can be convinced to vote Democrat in the coming election on logic and a sound plan. That is not what's being conveyed to those people, though, right now. And the media is not helping. And I hope the DNC figures out a way to get that message across before November so they don't lose the Senate and the White House. But I want to also point out, like, with stuff like Project 2025 being a potential future, I'm not understanding. I guess not that I'm not understanding. I don't know if everyone understands where the threat is, you know, how bad that is. I did see that Google search results have increased, so people are looking into it. But the more you read about that plan, and if you believe and understand that there are only two options in this election, it's either Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is, or Trump. If you understand and agree with that, then I don't know, and you are a reasonable person, I think you can see why Project 2025 is bad for the future of America. Like, they talk about getting rid of NOAA, you know, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the people that forecast the weather and track climate, you know, the people that told us that a hurricane was heading for Texas last week, which Texas, obviously, as usual, did not prepare for. And now millions of people don't have power and the temperature is like 100 degrees. They want to get rid of that part of the government. This is not a reasonable plan for America. It's not a good plan. You know, we're going to have more hurricanes. We should know when they're coming. Like, I don't want to rely on, I don't know, Meta, you know, Facebook to tell me when there's a hurricane coming because, you know, maybe it's behind a paywall and I don't want to pay for ad-free Meta. Like, this is why we need government agencies for regulation, for alerts, for information we use to live our lives. And I don't see how anyone can support allowing a person who wants to put Project 2025 into action into the White House. So if you agree that there are only two options in the coming election, no matter how frustrating it is, no matter how annoying it is, which is where I am, you know, that we don't have good candidates on the left. But we don't have one good candidate for the White House on the left. But if you agree that the option is Biden versus Trump, at this point, staying home is not an option. I personally want to be able to plan for a trip and know what the weather is going to be. Like, I don't know if you guys think that like Apple iPhone weather comes from Apple. It comes from NOAA, just as an example. So I understand what you're saying, Olu, and I agree the media is not helping. You know, you and I are not going to agree on whether Biden should step down or not, but like I said earlier, if he's the nominee, then that's what we're doing, guys. You know, let's go.
Exactly. So this is the thing. If the Democratic Party, if the leaders, the delegates, you know, the stakeholders, whoever you are, if you want to change Biden, please do so in the next week or so. We cannot have this continue to be the story for the rest of the month. Okay? So if you want him to step down, tell him to his face and make it happen. If it is going to be Biden and you don't have a plan for how you're going to replace him, then for the love of God, clean up your house, shut up your anonymous aides and staffers or whatever, okay? And let's move on. We need to do this quickly and efficiently because we only have 3.5 months left to campaign. Please. That's all I'm saying.
I love that impassioned plea. I love it and I support it 100%.
All right. Thank you all for joining us this week on our episode of Liberal Banter. We have been Olu and Liz. You may find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Goodbye for now.